On this Thursday night, get ready to shell out more at the grocery store.
In dollars, it's the highest amount in 16 years.
How much food prices will rise and why? BC's Conservative leader pushed out.
I harbor no hard feelings towards anybody.
The party's implosion and infighting. Divisive decision.
We have a complicated world, but we hope it's a temporary situation.
Why several countries are boycotting the Eurovision song competition. Plus, getting down to brass tacks.
I'm finding this very strange and very weird and unexpected.
How this school band in small-town Manitoba jingled all the way to becoming an internet sensation.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. For millions of Canadians already struggling to afford sky-high grocery prices, a forecast of what's to come in 2026 will not bring much comfort. According to researchers at Dalhousie University, the cost of food in Canada next year is expected to rise faster than overall inflation, largely driven by the price of meat, which could go up by 5 to 7%. Fruit and seafood is expected to rise a bit less. Anne Gaviola has our top story on how much more Canadian families could end up spending.
Blame U.S. President Donald Trump's trade war, climate change, higher costs as part of the pandemic hangover. No relief in sight on the food inflation front.
In dollars, it's the highest amount in 16 years.
The latest food price report, compiled by several Canadian universities, projects an average family of four will pay nearly $1,000 more next year for groceries. The estimated total spend, nearly $18,000, an increase of 4 to 6%.
We're not expecting beef prices to normalize before at least mid-year 2027.
A big driver of that increase is meat, especially beef.
Feed costs, many producers exiting the industry. But it's also the uncertainty, the economic uncertainty.
Trump's tariffs and threats, the dark cloud expected to continue to stoke food prices, which have risen nearly 30% since 2020.
There's a perfect storm of problems, which has really caused food prices to rise, not just in Canada, but internationally.
Of all the money spent on food in Canada, about 60% is groceries, nearly 40% dining out or getting takeout. But restaurant menu prices are expected to rise as much as 6% next year.
Restaurant operators tend to make a whole lot of money selling alcohol, but people are drinking less alcohol.
So other menu items may climb in price to make up for it.
About 1 in 4 Canadians at some point in the year experiences food insecurity, which is just a tragedy for our country.
Forcing people to turn to food banks like never before.
In Ottawa, we're seeing very similar numbers to what we're seeing at the provincial level and the federal level. That's a 101% increase since 2019. So we know that the need is getting greater and we continue to see the numbers climb.
The food inflation crisis projected to rage on and affect more households in 2026.
We're very concerned about the next 18 to 24 months. We are seeing more and more people who are employed, though. So we know even those who are employed are still struggling to make ends meet.
Anne Gaviola, Global News, Toronto.
It has been a tumultuous 24 hours in politics in BC. The leader of the opposition, John Rustad, announced that he's resigning a day after half his BC Conservative Party caucus declared him unfit for the job. Rustad initially said he wasn't going anywhere, but today had a change of heart. Global BC's Legislative Bureau Chief Keith Baldrey is with me from Victoria. Keith, it sounds like the Conservative Party in BC is imploding. What's going on?
Yeah, what a series of events yesterday, Donna. So ever since its inception last year as a brand new political party, it was evident the Conservatives are beset with internal divisions. You've got Liberals against Conservatives. These are people who have no history with each other. John Rustad today told me he wanted to avoid a looming civil war if he stayed on as a leader. He needs his factions to heal if they want to defeat the NDP. Here's John Rustad.
In my mind, that having a civil war, a fight between factions in this party was not in the interest of, first of all, the party, but certainly not in the interest of the province. Whoever that next leader is going to be will become the next premier of this province.
He sounds confident, Keith. Despite the internal dissent, the BC Conservatives have been polling well. Where does this leave them, though?
Yeah, they're still very competitive with the ruling NDP. Poll after poll shows they are within 2, 3, 4 points if an election were held today. But again, a leadership race provides some opportunities for political parties to renew themselves, get new members and raise money. That's the point interim leader Trevor Halford made to reporters today.
I think it actually opens the door for more opportunity. That means more members. That means more ideas on the table. I've been a part of a few leadership races that people have said there's going to be fractures in after they occur, and actually there's unification.
So again, Trevor Halford is the interim leader. The new leader will be chosen sometime in the new year. We don't know what the rules are, and it's going to be a challenge for the Conservatives to get through a leadership race without those divisions suddenly exploding in public. Donna?
All right, Keith Baldrey in Victoria, thank you. Alberta's United Conservative government has introduced a series of proposed amendments that will affect how that province carries out elections and referendums. Among them are amendments to the province's Referendum Act. Alberta would be able to hold referendums, but would not be able to implement a binding referendum's results if doing so contravenes Canada's constitution. Another amendment would give the provincial justice minister final say on what petitions on referendum questions are referred to the courts. An Alberta separatist group is in court right now hoping to get a referendum question authorized, though Alberta's justice minister wouldn't tie these changes to any specific movement.
I'm not going to speculate too much on what petitions might come forward, but I will say that we intend for this process, and always have intended for the process, to be permissive in nature. That is to say that we want to encourage Albertans to put important issues before other Albertans.
The minister says the proposal will not prevent the anti-separatist Forever Canadian petition from moving forward to a potential referendum. Other proposed amendments in the bill target long ballot protests during elections by boosting the required signatures for candidate nominations from 25 to 100. It's now expected Prime Minister Mark Carney will meet U.S. President Donald Trump on the sidelines of a FIFA World Cup event in Washington, D.C. tomorrow. We knew they would both be there, along with Mexico's president. All three countries are co-hosting the World Cup. But today, the Prime Minister's office said Trump and Carney will actually meet. Trump, of course, called off trade negotiations with Canada in October. Mackenzie Gray is in Washington. Mac, is anything substantive expected from this meeting?
Well, the Prime Minister's office is trying to downplay the meeting, Donna, between Mark Carney and Donald Trump that'll take place on the sidelines of the FIFA World Cup draw. They're saying it'll be a brief meeting, but a meeting is still a meeting. And it gives Carney a shot at trying to get trade talks back on track. They have been going since late October. And if things can get moving again, a deal could happen quickly, with both Carney and the U.S. ambassador to Canada saying an agreement on things like metals tariffs were really close before Trump ended things over the Ontario government's anti-tariff ad, something that Carney apologized for the last time he saw Trump in South Korea. Now, getting talks started again likely won't come by just asking nicely, Donna. The PM had to drop the digital services tax in the summer to get things moving again, and there could be a similar price to pay in fixing another U.S. irritant this time around.
Mac, the reason the Prime Minister is in Washington is for the FIFA draw when teams find out who they'll play. How is that draw going to work?
Mark Carney is going to be pulling at least one of the balls out of the pot to determine which teams Canada will be playing in the World Cup, Donna, and Canada's men's national team has a huge advantage. The way the draw works is that there are 4 pots of teams that can be drawn from, and as the host, Canada is in pot 1, along with 9 other teams, like Brazil, Argentina, and France, some of the best teams in the world, meaning Canada can't play them in the group stage. But there are still plenty of other top teams Canada could match up with, including the possibility of playing Italy in Toronto for the first game, which wouldn't be ideal. But it's an expanded World Cup. There are 48 teams this time, meaning there are multiple weaker sides in the draw, and if Canada goes up against any of them, Donna, there could be the possibility of Canada getting their first ever World Cup victory on home soil.
That'll be exciting. Mackenzie Gray in Washington, thanks. Now back to trade talks. There are none officially underway, but business leaders are giving their input at hearings in Washington today on extending the existing free trade agreement between the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. It is up for review next year, and the U.S. president is again putting everyone off balance by suggesting the U.S. could withdraw from it completely. Jillian Piper has that story.
Mexico and Canada have taken advantage of the United States.
After calling off all trade talks with Canada 6 weeks ago, U.S. President Donald Trump is once again threatening that he may leave the North American Free Trade Agreement altogether.
We'll either let it expire or we'll maybe work out another deal with Mexico and Canada.
The deal, which Trump himself helped negotiate, is set to expire next year and stipulates that 6 months' notice is required to withdraw.
You know, it's also possible the Toronto Maple Leafs win the Stanley Cup. It doesn't mean that they will.
Business leaders advocating for Canada during public hearings hearings on the agreement in Washington are not convinced Trump will actually make the exit.
Hopefully sooner rather than later, the review and renewal of the USMCA will happen. But in my mind, there's no question that at some point in time, it absolutely will happen.
But what exactly a renegotiated Canada-US-Mexico free trade deal could look like is not clear. U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer recently told Politico that the U.S. may try to divide the agreement into two, dealing with Canada and Mexico separately.
Losing the agreement entirely is always something to be concerned about.
And Canadian stakeholders are concerned some sectors that have supply chains intertwined with the United States will never be the same.
Automotive is going to go to a different place as long as they're cognizant of where the market is going and where the technology is going. We can see them get to something that we can live with in North America, even if it doesn't resemble what we had 10 or 20 years ago.
Despite punishing U.S. tariffs, Ottawa maintains that Canada has the best trade deal with the United States because of the exemption for free trade compliant goods. And Canadian leaders in Washington will be doing everything they can to preserve that carve-out as the public hearings continue through Friday. Donna?
Jillian Piper in Ottawa, thank you. The Manitoba government is going to sell off all the U.S. alcohol pulled from the shelves to protest American tariffs and give the money to charity. About $1 million worth of beer, wine and spirits will be put up for sale at some government-run liquor stores starting next week. The money generated will be donated to local groups that distribute food and gifts for the holidays. And when it's gone, it's gone. The province confirms it is still not buying any new American liquor. A big break in a 5-year-old mystery coming up. Who's accused of planting pipe bombs in Washington in 2021? Plus, why Russia's president is being blamed for the death of a British woman. In the U.S., the FBI has finally arrested a suspect linked to pipe bombs planted in the nation's capital back in 2021. The bombs were placed outside the headquarters of the Republican and Democratic parties just before the January 6th siege on the Capitol. As Jackson Prosco reports, the breakthrough didn't come from new evidence, but from a review of what investigators had all along.
The mystery has dogged the FBI for nearly 5 years as investigators struggled to identify who placed pipe bombs outside Democratic and Republican Party headquarters on the eve of the January 6th riot at the Capitol.
An individual who is now alleged to have placed multiple explosive devices to blow up multiple people and multiple officials, innocent civilians, is now arrested.
Early Thursday, police arrested a 30-year-old man from Virginia, Brian Cole Jr., and searched his home in the Washington suburbs. Cole is charged with transporting an explosive device and attempted malicious destruction with explosives. So far, there's no information about an alleged motive.
Folks, you're not going to walk into our capital city, put down 2 explosive devices, and walk off in the sunset.
On January 6, 2021, the bombs were discovered after the riot at the Capitol had already started. Then Vice President-elect Kamala Harris was at Democratic Party headquarters and was evacuated from the building. The bombs were disarmed, but the search for a suspect went cold, spawning conspiracy theories. The breakthrough came after a review of evidence the Bureau already had in hand after the Trump administration prioritized the case.
That evidence has been sitting there collecting dust. This wasn't a new tip. It wasn't some new evidence.
The Justice Department says additional charges against the suspect are likely. And while President Donald Trump issued a blanket pardon to nearly all 1,600 rioters involved in the January 6th attack, the language of that pardon likely does not extend to the pipe bombing suspect. Jackson Prosco, Global News, Washington.
An internal watchdog at the Pentagon says Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth may have endangered U.S. troops when he used the Signal app on his personal phone to share sensitive details of a planned strike in Yemen. The report says Hegseth shared information from a classified email violating Pentagon policy. A journalist was mistakenly added to that Signal chat and revealed Hegseth had shared targets, weapon types, and the timing of the attacks. The White House insists no classified information was leaked, but some U.S. lawmakers say the findings reveal recklessness and poor judgment and are calling for Hegseth to resign. Eurovision boycott ahead. Who's ditching the contest and why? The Eurovision Song Contest attracts hundreds of millions of viewers every year, and though most of the countries competing are from Europe, other countries like Israel and Australia participate, and now Canada is considering joining too. But ahead of the 2026 contest, some countries have decided to pull out, saying they can't be part of it as long as Israel is allowed to be there. Redmond Shannon reports on the divisions in a contest that is meant to unite.
Austria, you have received...
It's perhaps the world's biggest international competition outside of sports.
178
The Eurovision Song Contest. Watched by 160 million people every spring. But just like sports, it cannot escape politics. The past two contests have seen protests against Israel's participation due to the war in Gaza. And in recent months, 4 national public broadcasters threatened to boycott next year's contest if Israel competes. At a meeting of the European Broadcasting Union Thursday, that topic was debated, but organisers decided not to proceed with a vote. So Ireland, the Netherlands, Slovenia and Spain all confirmed they are out for 2026.
It's a bit of a mixed feelings. Like, obviously there is a lot of happiness and a lot of huge relief. We're actually going to compete, and there is some love against all of this hate.
Aviv Origal says Israeli Eurovision fans like him have not felt safe going to the past two contests.
This has been the most politically divisive issue in the history of the Eurovision Song Contest.
Eurovision expert William Lee Adams says more countries could yet withdraw, but that many more would need to drop out to threaten the event's viability.
Eurovision was born from the ashes of the Second World War. It was designed to bring us together, and it will hit bumps in the road, and we have a complicated world, but we hope it's a temporary situation.
Israel has won Eurovision 4 times. If it wins a 5th in Vienna next year and the right to host the following event, it could create a whole new set of headaches for organisers. Redmond Shannon, Global News, London.
In an interview in India, Russian President Vladimir Putin again warned that Ukrainian troops must withdraw from the eastern Donbas region, or Russia, he says, will seize it, rejecting any compromise over how to end the war in Ukraine. The Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi gave Putin a big hug today as Putin arrived for a 2-day visit. The ties between India and Russia go back to the Soviet era, and a series of trade and arms deals are expected to be signed. Since the start of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, India has become one of the largest buyers of Russian oil, despite international pressure to find other sources. A British inquiry has concluded Vladimir Putin bears moral responsibility for the use of a deadly nerve agent in 2018 that killed a British mother of 3 and injured Russian double agent Sergei Skripal.
And I've concluded that the operation to assassinate Sergei Skripal must have been authorized at the highest level, indeed by President Putin.
Don Sturgis died from exposure to the nerve agent Novichok that was inside a perfume bottle. The poison was used by Russian agents in an attempt to kill Russian double agent Sergei Skripal and his daughter. The pair were living in the UK after a 2010 spy swap with Russia. Both of them survived that attack. When going low goes viral. Next, a Manitoba school band reacts to global attention. Meta has begun removing Australian users from under the age of 16 from Instagram, Facebook and Threads. The country's new social media age ban takes effect on December 10th. About 500,000 accounts are expected to be shut down, with platforms facing fines of up to $45 million if they don't comply. The Australian government says it's about protecting kids. Tech companies warn the law's rushed and could push teenagers to less regulated apps. Well, kids who join elementary school bands are just beginning to learn their instruments. They need to rehearse a lot and don't expect to end up in the spotlight. But members of a grade 6 band in a small Manitoba town are getting more attention than they ever imagined, thanks to a social media post of their rehearsal. Melissa Ridgen on the school band whose music has been heard around the world.
Wednesday, holiday concert night at a Cole Dugald school. A town of 600 people just outside of Winnipeg, all here for this year's show. But a full house is nothing for these 6th graders. They've already played for 2 million people. This video of the students rehearsing Jingle Bells was posted on the school's social media and went viral, mostly for this. What appears to be 11 tubas in a band of 30 kids. The internet loved it. This classroom single-handedly doubled the amount of tuba players in the world. Welcome to Tuba Town.
There's actually only 7 tuba players, and then the rest are euphoniums, but a lot of people thought that there was a lot of tuba players.
Tubas, euphoniums, which are a lesser-known valved brass instrument, people loved it.
Some of the comments in there are really funny, and I think they celebrate our kids doing something pretty awesome. I mean, I think the whole town has sort of embraced this a little bit.
The students, too.
I think they love the attention. It's been very motivating for them.
I love how our band plays together, and they when one of us are stuck, we help them become the best. They're really excited for the concert and everything.
The whole town was. So did the rehearsing pay off? While the show is over, the glory lives on. Melissa Ridgen, Tuba Town, or Dugald, Manitoba.
Big shout out to those kids and to band teachers everywhere. That is Global National for this Thursday. I'm Donna Friesen. Tonight's Your Canada is the North Bay Museum in North Bay, Ontario. We'd love to see your festive Canada photos. Please email them to globalnational@globalnews.ca. And thanks for watching. Jeff Semple will be at the Anchor Desk tomorrow, and I will see you again next week. Bye-bye.